because of the way social media is framing relationships now, people feel as though it's my way or the highway.
And it begs the question, what is appropriate behavior when it comes to being in a relationship?
Just because it's in a public space doesn't make your point valid.
Right.
Do you get what I mean? Just because you said it loudly doesn't make it true.
Ain't nobody gonna honor your expectations if you ain't put over about it. Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. I'm Renee.
And I'm Courtney, and we are your online sisters and hosts of the To My Sisters podcast.
Now we are all about promoting the wellness, growth and development of a community of sisters across the world.
And in today's conversation, Darius, Keke,
shout,
Twitter,
no,
politics,
Lord,
baby mama,
Jesus,
all of it. Honestly, we are going to be talking about the situation that went, down online
a
couple days ago.
It's fresh.
Yeah,
off the press.
fresh off the press. We are here to talk about it.
Mail.
This happened whilst we were in New Orleans, which we'll tell you all about.
New Orleans.
But something went down with Keke Palmer and her baby father, her partner. I don't know if they're together. I don't know.
She said partner.
I don't know if they're still together after this situation, but I will let Renee tell the story.
Yeah. So many moons ago, and by moons ago, I mean a couple of moons ago. In fact, not even a moon, because a moon is really a whole month. Essentially what happened was, if you're not on the social medias, Keke Palmer and her boyfriend, her partner, Darius, had a bit of an altercation, and by altercation, just mostly online, where Keke went to an industry event. She was there with a couple of other people, and she was wearing an outfit where, her ass cheeks was a little bit out, you know what I'm saying? Ronche, risque, it was giving body. And then on top of that, she was actually interacting with the well-known hip-hop R&B artist, Usher.
Mr. Usher Raymond.
And the thing about Usher Raymond is Mr. Raymond enjoys giving a girl a good serenade. So Keke was wearing this, body-tastic, bodylicious outfit, and then also was being serenaded by Usher. One thing about Usher is Usher gonna serenade. He was giving all the vocals, vocals. And of course Keke is an actress, so she was very much playing up to it, giving him the eyes and all that kind of jazz. Fast forward to perhaps a day or two when, the videos hit the social media streets. We have Keke's boyfriend, partner, we don't know what he is to her just yet.
Definitely the father of her child.
Hit the Twitter streets and quote tweet the video that was circulating the internet saying, "You a mom though, this outfit.
You're a
mom." And ding, ding, ding. We have a winner for the social media tyrant of the day. He was then influxed, barraged with various women, men, children, everybody. Everybody was coming for Darius's neck. And it begs the question, what is appropriate behavior when it comes to being in a relationship? What is appropriate for, quote unquote, a mom? What is appropriate around, having communications with your partner? Should they happen in private or public? And how do we deal with tomfoolery when it hits the social media 100%. Streets? So that's just giving you a 101 on the issue at hand.
Yeah, so we wanted to give you some context to today's conversation, just for those of you who may not, be on the Twitter. Right. Shout out to Threads. We're on Threads now. Come and follow us on Threads.
Everyone is on Threads.
At the moment.
Courtney's on Threads.
I'm
on Threads.
There you go.
So my sister is also on Threads.
Go. So if you've been missing me from the Twitter streets, you come and find me on the Threads.
Please don't disappear.
I could, because I give it 13 days before it becomes toxic.
One thing about Miss Courtney is when things become toxic, she's out. She left Twitter. When did you leave? Like 2020?
After they deleted my first account.
Oh, yeah.
They locked me out of my first account. Story time. Imagine getting your university results. Just graduated from school, found out that you passed one of the hardest seasons of your life. And you go to tweet about it. And then you're like, oh, you know what I should do? Update my birthday on my bio. And then I changed my birthday from 1996, which is apparently what I put in when I signed up because I was definitely underage, to 1997, the year that I was born. And they were like, oh, you signed up when you were underage. How about we take this account back?
God damn.
I had like 7,000 followers. Stop. I had like a whole body of work. Of thoughts, of evolution from like teenage Courtney, and they said, give us that right back. And I said, I'm never going to come back here again.
They said, you thought you could play here?
Yeah. So I made another account and Twitter just didn't hit the same for me. Like it just didn't hit the same.
I think also over time, Twitter just became a really toxic cesspit, like an actual cesspit of just people who want to drag you down. For me, when I like stopped, because I love Twitter, I'm a writer, so I love like tweeting my thoughts and whatnot. What really did it for me was that tweet that we did an episode about a long time ago, like quite a while ago, about the woman who, she's out here tweeting, I love the mornings with my husband, and 10 million people decided to get upset about that.
If you go through our library of episodes, you'll see that a lot of the stuff that we touch on usually happens on Twitter because it's just so messy to me. But the reason why I don't think Threads is necessarily safe is social media just reflects life. And the same people that exist on Twitter are going to come to Threads anyway and bring that same energy. So I'm just trying to curate my feed, go and listen to a few episodes again, to make sure that it's something that's actually healthy. I think that there's a fine line between banter and just something being quite toxic and like teaching you to think about the world in such a pessimistic way.
I am hoping though, because Threads is connected to Instagram, that people are going to behave a little bit better. And I think initially everyone's going to be like, oh, okay, people can see my life on Instagram, let me behave and whatnot. But I do think that, as you were saying, there's always room for nonsense.
100%.
Especially on Threads. And people will chat-ish wherever they go on social media.
The nonsense gives us content. So here we are.
And alas, here we are, exactly. Alas, here we are.
So housekeeping. We know that was quite a long intro, but chill with us. Honestly, it is Saturday, the day before you're listening to this episode. We landed back from New Orleans 2 days ago.
New Orleans.
Whole week in NOLA
Great
for
stuff.
Essence Festival. Firstly, sisters, thank you.
Fantastic.
It is so surreal that we can travel to places we have never been to before and meet women who rock with us so bad and who are just truly sisters. You were all fantastic, so beautiful, gorgeous, so kind. Genuinely, the way the skin was glowing, the smiles were beaming.
The US girlies, sorry, I just have to say, if you're a US girlie listening to this, you are gorgeous, because beautiful. I was absolutely bamboozled at the beauty.
And it's just the whole of Essence weekend. Gorgeous. Like it was the amount of beautiful women we saw, like of all ages, but the sisters that came to the brunch, y'all are stunning.
I was like, you guys are coming for us and you look like this.
Inside and out. Models. But honestly, we were so grateful that we were able to host a brunch out there. Absolutely. Thank you for coming. Thank you for speaking into TMS, giving us feedback, eating with us, clinking with us. Like, it's so interesting. We came with like games planned, activities planned, so and like funny conversations that we would have. And literally the whole time we just ended up speaking amongst ourselves.
And we definitely overstayed our booking, but shout out to Coppervine, shout out to Sorted. Holland, baby girl, we love you. Shout out to Sorted Chalet, the entire team, Edwina, Vedette, you guys killed it yet again, and Bali is coming up and we are excited. So honestly, sisters, thank you so much. Even the sisters that flew out, because we know that there's actually some sisters that attended the brunch that they're not natives to New Orleans. They actually flew out for the Suma Sisters community
to another state. Honestly,
man,
and they suggested that we do a whole US tour. So if that's something you want to see,
you ought to drop it like it's hot in the comments. But not only that though, because I know that there's sisters listening to this that are the Kenyan sisters.
Listen,
the Kenyan sisters have been taking their register. I've been noticing, but also I ain't even gonna mention South Africa because the SA, the South Africa,
that will not be named.
I have to whisper
100%.
because A, we're going there, but B, they said they want brunches, they want live show, they want everything, and I don't know if we will survive, you guys, when we get there, but we're excited.
Might end up going to South Africa for like 3 weeks.
Do you know what I mean? Just staying there, just doing up sisters.
But honestly, like sisterhood revolution, like. We cannot believe that this podcast, which we started in our bedroom, like, 2.5 years ago, nearly 3 years ago, has evolved into truly a global, international and beautiful sisterhood. So thank you all for showing up, showing out, supporting us as well. Like, I don't think you realize how incredible it is to just hear your words, to feel, the love in the room, and we've just been bumping into people everywhere, to be fair. Honestly. Who are like, I listen to the podcast, absolutely love what you guys are doing, and it's truly encouraging. Please don't ever feel like, oh, I don't know if I should go and no, you must.
Even if we're looking a bit like sour face, because sometimes you have like a resting face.
I always tell people, like, if you see me outside and I look stressed, still come and say hi. I'm just thinking about bills,
right?
I'm just thinking about how I can make £1 million next week. But you can interrupt that thought.
Please come up and say, oh, I love your podcast. Oh, I love you too.
I love you too.
It will make my day. Come and tell us. But on the vein of support, actually, one big housekeeping announcement that we have is we've actually been nominated for a podcast award.
To be fair, I was going to talk about this, the fact that it is award season. So let's backtrack a little bit. If you follow a little somebody somewhere, you would know that we are sitting with a Diana Award recipient. As in, she received it. The king, the princes have acknowledged my girl, my best friend, Renee Kapuku, the first of her name, the queen of the house, Madame Presidente.
I don't even know how to react. You know what it feels like? You know when like a pastor is being, a visiting pastor is coming to church and you got... Praise Jesus.
For her outstanding contributions to young people. And honestly, I am so proud of you.
Thank you,
and it is such an honor to have an award-winning co-host.
Stop
but this is about to be an award-winning podcast.
Hallelujah.
Okay,
heavy.
So please, we actually need you guys to rock out and vote,
Please.
We've been nominated for Podcast of the Year.
Yep.
Is it Podcast of the
Year?
Yeah. Podcast of the Year. I was about to say Community of the Year, but Podcast of the Year by Be Creator, which used to be known as Blogosphere. So it's actually a really big deal. And shout out to our good sis, Vika TV. If you came to the live show last year, or if you've just been listening to the podcast, you know that we are huge V fans.
Tell her that we're coming for her soon, in fact, that she gonna sit on this couch.
She is going to be right here. But honestly, she has been nominated for Creator of the Year. And so it's fun times, guys. God is moving. Things are working. Honestly. And wouldn't be able to do any of it without you. So thank you so much. All right. Any other housekeeping?
Nothing beyond vote.
Vote. And also donate. Oh, guys.
We're almost there.
Big school update. We are on £8,000 plus. We are on £8,000
Are you joking?
plus. I'm not telling you any fibs.
My God.
Genuinely.
You're joking.
Sistering.
You're pulling my leg.
Sisterins, masseurs of the internet.
I know the French girls go like that. Mr.
Thank you. Wow.
8K.
Yes.
Yo, that school's being built, bro.
It's being built, honestly. And I was having a conversation with Fredita recently just about our campaign and what we really are now able to do. And we are thinking of just not necessarily capping it at 10K. 10K will get the school built, right? But now we're thinking, okay, how do we get the best resources to make it really sustainable as well? We're thinking about solar panels on the roof, and then also partnering with other organizations, because you guys have helped us kickstart this and make it really legit. We are on the way. This is snowballing. We're going. So now how can we get other people who will also accelerate that growth and see that the sisterhood is vast, it's moving, it's mobilized, and now do you want to get on this wave or not? Because even if you don't, we gonna make it happen. These kids are going to school, right? I'm just, my heart is warmed.
There's a lot going on. Sisters, when we say that this is a community of impact, of change, we're not just here to sit down and entertain you guys. We're here to feed and edify you, but equally feed and edify the women that we care about within our community. Yeah. So this is just so heartwarming to hear, because I didn't know this update up until this episode, and it's just
8,000
8K.
Yeah.
2K left.
Yeah.
Sisters.
Yeah. We riding out.
Sisters, y'all that are listening, just, not just the sisters, even the brothers that are cheekily listening in. Open your purse.
Yeah, and to be honest, big thanks. I actually know a lot of people who, don't identify as sisters, who are I've donated, or I'm working towards donating, and genuinely just thank you all for believing in this vision, for caring enough about people in the world, even in hard economic times. We know that it is not easy, and we come here every week and we're please donate, and you guys have not once discouraged us. You haven't been the toxicity of Twitter hasn't made itself here, and genuinely we have such a beautiful community, and we appreciate every single one of you listening. Even if you haven't donated, just every share, every repost, honestly, everything. Thank you. Wow. So I think we're done with housekeeping.
I think we are.
But before we talk about...
last housekeeping is London ladies. There's an announcement coming really, really soon.
Oh my.
And don't lack is the only thing that I will say. Make sure you are signed up to the mailing list because something huge is coming your way. Okay? Thank you.
You don't want to be on the losing side of this one.
Don't lose. No, don't lose.
All right.
Like something quite big. Like it's not
quite
small.
large.
It's large. Don't lose. Right?
Some would say it's one of the biggest things we've ever done.
It is.
It is.
It is. And we are going to need every sister. This is like, conscription for war. We need every sister on the front line. This is warfare.
We need you.
You know that
we can do it.
We can do it. We need every single one of you. London ladies, in fact, UK ladies that are willing to come to the Londons, okay?
Make a whole weekend out of it.
Something is coming your way very soon. Okay? T-minus 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Okay? I don't want you to miss out. I care about you. I love you. We're gonna win this war together. Yeah. If you're not signed up to that mailing list, you have seen it in year 1. Yeah. You have seen it in year 2. Yeah. Year 3, don't let it be the third time that you lose. Okay. And shout out to all the sisters that have backed us. You think we don't know your names? We know your names.
We know your names.
We know your names. And thank you so much for the outpouring of support. But something huge is coming. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. And you should stay tuned.
Well.
Oh God.
Before we get into, one piece of drama, someone else is going through something and we need to serve them first.
Great. That was a great little segue. I love that.
It's my job. So we have a ding, ding, ding.
Dilemma.
Let's go. Hello, my beautiful sisters. Hey. You are amazing ladies and your advice has gotten me through a lot. This is why you're the best people to ask. I'm a 20-year-old international student in Australia. My boyfriend is an international student in Europe. I've been with him for 2 years since high school. However, the older we grow, the more different we are on core fundamental values. This causes lots of fights and disagreements that are fairly healthy. However, I am starting to feel resentment towards him and I can sense the same with him. On top of that, we are doing long distance and because my course is heavily rigorous, it causes me to need to prioritize my work, which also causes fights in regards to the time I am offering in the relationship. I'm afraid of breaking up with him because I'm scared that I may never find better. Our families back in our home countries also know that we're together and are friends, which makes it harder. There are some toxic elements that are hidden by his kindness and lovingness that I shan't get into, and that makes me feel guilty when I think about breaking things off with him. I don't know what to do and I am scared of hurting his feelings, and yet I am betraying myself by staying with him for longer. Thank you, sisters.
Hey sis, what was the dilemma?
She basically is like,
should she stay or should she go?
Should I stay or should I go? We're having kind of evolutions in our core principles, our core fundamentals, and it's causing disagreements. It's healthy disagreements, but now some resentment is building up because not only do we have these rifts, we're now like in different parts of the world doing long distance. I have to commit to my like education and my career, and it's affecting the time I can commit to it. So things are kind of piling up a little. She's seeing some toxic things. It's covered up by the fact that he is loving and kind. Yeah. She doesn't know if she should leave him. She feels bad for wanting to leave him. Yeah. But also the thing that's influencing her to stay is the fact that their families both know that they're together and they've been together for 2 years.
Yeah. Okay. So your family knowing, I won't say it's irrelevant, but don't let that like force you or compel you into staying into a relationship if you believe that it's actually not good or it's toxic. That's the first thing I'll say. But backpedaling a little bit, I want to say that first of all, sis, you're going through a very like big evolutionary growing phase, right? There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be changes. And I think letting yourselves grow both individually, but also as a couple is important. And I'm like hearing the fact that you already have disagreements is not surprising. You're in a long distance relationship, Australia, Europe, it's like so opposite sides of the world. So I'm not surprised that there's going to have to be some kind of concessions made. You're both in very different environments as well. So in terms of like some of the core fundamental values that you may have, there is going to be a necessity around exploration, seeing what it is that you actually hold true and dear to yourselves. I think it's very important to prioritize communication where you can. when you are in a long distance relationship or when you can't see your partner for a while, it's even more important that you're super intentional about having time to communicate, and not just passive communication of just like being present with each other on the phone or FaceTimes or whatnot, but actually retouching on some of those core fundamental values that you mentioned. So what is it that you're noticing about each other? What is it that you are changing about yourself? What is it that you've been presented with that has impacted the way that you see the world? Good. It's really important for you to be able to not just go through the growth phase, but being able to articulate it and communicate it to your partner as well. Because I think resentment can build up where there's misunderstanding and misalignment. So I think prioritizing times where you can actually, you know, speak with your partner frankly and say, I've changed my mind on this. What are your thoughts on this? This is what is influencing me. These are the people that I'm interacting with now. And this is how this has shaped, you know, my worldview or, you know, things between us, and just being really, really honest about that. I think also giving your partner a little bit of grace as well, because as much as you are, you know, prioritizing your own work, which you should, because, you know, you're entering into a season or a phase where you're building your career, like you're literally in the first few kind of like moments of really getting your professional qualifications and really like figuring out what it is that you want to do for the future. So I think whilst you are prioritizing your work and thinking about, you know, that side of stuff for your life, also giving your partner some grace because they're probably going through a similar thing, just in a different, you know, tandem or whatever. And really asking them, you know, what are the challenges that you're facing right now? Do you feel the same resentment or this building of emotion that I am feeling as well? Like, what are your thoughts towards us, towards me? And then also, I wouldn't say, oh, you know, chart out the long-term vision of your relationship to a significant amount of detail, but at least make sure that you're both on the same trajectory. So is it that you want to get married in X amount of years? Is it that you see yourselves like moving in together at some point in the future? What is that timeline looking like for the both of you? Is there agreement on some of the core fundamental things as it pertains to your relationship? I think is really, really important to establish. Now, in terms of the toxic stuff, as it pertains to your relationship, because of you haven't actually articulated what the toxic traits are, it's difficult for me to like give you advice in that area, because I think that everybody has their drawbacks and everybody has their character flaws. This is not to deny the fact that, you know, this guy could be seriously toxic. Like it could be serious. And if you find it particularly serious to the point that it's damaging your relationship, then that may be a cause for concern and you may need to leave. However, if the toxic traits are, you know, character flaws that can be worked through or some issues that you may have with each other, I think it's important that you flag it and you bring it up to him and say, look, these are some of the things that I have noticed you doing. And then interacting with him and judging what is his response to that criticism or what is his response to you bringing this up to him. I think that will give you an understanding as to whether this is a toxic trait that can't be, you know, fixed, or a toxic trait that he can't work on, or it's something that A, can be worked on, but also B, he's willing to work on. So really ascertaining, is this guy actually willing to work on some of the traits that I've noticed, or willing to work with me on some of the things that are now issues in our relationship because of the way that he's behaved. And then I would also say, be daring and bold enough to ask him, what have you noticed about me? Is there anything that I'm exhibiting, any signs, any behaviors that for all intents and purposes, you could be thinking, I'm fine, I'm cool, like nothing has changed with me, but he's actually noticed and it's causing issues or problems within the relationship. So it's very much an equal assessment of each other. In terms of, you know, the sunk cost fallacy, right? It's, you have invested 2 years into this relationship, your family knows and all that kind of good stuff. Too many times we've seen women feel as though they are now obliged to stay in a relationship that's no longer serving them because of this, because of the significant investment. But really and truly, you guys are both very, very young still. And if it is that this relationship is no longer serving you and won't serve your future, and you're not willing to put in the work, both of you equally, then it may be a time to say, okay, we might just need to call it quits and be friends. This is not me saying don't fight for your relationship, because everything I've said up until now is fight for your relationship and see where you can go. But if in the event you get to the point where this relationship can't be fought for, it's about making your peace with the fact that whilst you have lost an investment now, it's you investing in your future by saying no now, right? And not being afraid to say, this is no longer serving me, but equally, this relationship is no longer serving him either. Because again, relationships are about partnership. And if this is no longer a partnership, if this is no longer something that is actively serving us both, if this is no longer fruitful or healthy, then we may have to let it go. Even if it's like you take a break for a while and just allow yourselves to grow and become more mature people, or if it's we're calling it quits and that's it. But don't allow that sunk cost fallacy, don't allow the investment that you've put in so far allow you to cling on to something that will end up breaking in the future anyways.
So good.
But yeah, that's what I would say, Miss Courtney.
I completely agree with everything that you've said. I think if the only thing that I would add is evolution is always going to happen. Like, as people, we are going to start investigating our views, our thoughts, especially when you take a new step in terms of education or career, or you now may be surrounded by different people. Like, if you're both you're both going to school and you've both left your hometowns, you've left your family, you've left your original group of friends, you're now going to be exposed to different schools of thought, different philosophies, different ways of life, which are truly shaping you and what you think is right and how you would want to live. And that may feel that may cause a little bit of discomfort, because now it's like, but this is not the person who I was in a relationship with 2 years ago, or who I, first fell for. And it's okay, because as people, we're going to evolve. Like, in any kind of relationship, in friendship, romance, family, people evolve, people's views start changing. And I think the thing that you need to realize here is, okay, can we actually travail through this? Can we help each other evolve? Can we bounce thoughts and feelings and ideas off of each other that helps shape us in a similar direction? Or actually, do we want to go on this journey of evolution separately? You are both extremely young. You started dating in high school and you're only 2 years into your relationship. So you're both basically early adults. You're going to be changing your mind probably about a lot of different things. And it would be good to kind of decide with each other, okay, maybe we need some space to evolve separately. We're now in 2 different parts of the world as well. We're not going to see each other as often. Maybe we should actually take that step back to just be friends for a while. And I'm not saying I think if you break something, you should have a clear break. I'm not saying let's take a break or let's just kind of be friends with benefits. No, maybe it is, let's take a full step back and just go back to being friends, because I don't think the breakup has to be full of malice or hurt or pain or a complete severing. I think that there can be something that is mutually beneficial. And so if you can decide to be friends and help each other through figuring life out, then I'd actually say do that, and take the pressure of being in a romantic relationship off. And I love what you mentioned about, the sunk cost fallacy. You have put in 2 years, but in some way you have learned so much about yourself and so much about what it is you do and do not want, that you are still taking a dividend from this investment. You are still taking a gain from this investment, which is you've actually learned more about yourself, and you've learned more about how independent you can actually be and what it is that you do and don't want. And I think those lessons serve you well as you now embark on maybe finding something new, or more so just evolving as a person in general and growing and having learned from relationships. And at the end of the day, you've had 2 great years with this person. And if this is the end of that season, then this is the end of that season. Well, sis, we hope that helped you. We hope that you feel a little bit more. I don't know if you came to us to ask for permission to leave him, because we don't do that.
We can't give you that.
We don't do that. But honestly, I just say trust your gut. Use a lot of wisdom as well, and realize that if you let this thing go, if it's meant to come back to you, it will. Especially if you two remain friends. And if it's not meant for you, at least it opens you up to receive whatever is for you in this season, whether it's, being single, dating, finding someone else, or just focusing on your amazing work. And so we wish you nothing but the best. And we know that you're going to do amazingly because you're a sister. All right. Well, from helping one sister to talking about another. Keke Palmer, who I think is actually one of the most underrated 100%. Performers of our time. 100%. We'll talk about a triple threat.
Hello.
And she's hilarious.
I love Keke.
And she's beautiful. I really love Keke, have for a long time. And so as she has become a mother and into this new season of her life, it's actually been so beautiful to see her blossom in some ways. So it's so sad to now have "you're a mom" be trending for such a bad reason.
Right.
And I think it would be good to this is a very like unstructured conversation just about everything that's happening, the different dynamics of this situation, from, you know, taking your very intimate conversations you should be having with your partner to the online sphere, finding agreement within your relationship in the first place about your standards, your expectations, but also like policing women's bodies and just that expectation society that once you become a mother, you can completely drastically change. Now, context to this conversation and disclaimers: we are not mothers, all right? We are not married, all right? And oftentimes people hear this and they think, why are you talking about this topic? Because we own microphones and we have a podcast.
You have no expertise. I'm not listening to you. Who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are? So for this one, we really do want to invite the community, the sisters. Like, if you are a mom, if you are someone who's experienced this, if you have a significant other, like definitely drop your comment and your thoughts down below here on YouTube, or you can also like leave I think there's a Q&A section even on Spotify.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
it's shocking. Yeah. Definitely type your thoughts in there, but also like IG will put up a clip and you guys can comment under what it is you think about the Keke and Darius situation that went down online a few days ago.
Respectfully
100%. And yeah, definitely share that insight. But what we are going to do from our perspectives is basically just talk about the framework around all of this, like the politics of it all, the interpersonal relationship dynamics that we're seeing play out. We're going to theorize, we're going to talk, and we're going to just, you know, draw on some wisdom, but we're not the be all and end all of knowledge.
We're not. And also we're speaking from a place of, these are people that we actually interact with. So we have really close friends to us who are mothers. We have really close friends who are also men. And in preparation for, well, not preparation, but these are conversations that we have with them constantly. So we're drawing from obviously our own experience, but we're also drawing from the experiences of the people that we 100%. Interact with, that are present in our community. So there's no absence.
It's here. What commentary.
There we go. Yeah. There we go.
All right. Well, what are your thoughts on the Keke situation, basically?
God, what a mess. I think the first reaction that I had, like when I came across the whole debacle, why is this in the public? I don't know what has happened, but I think social media has almost become a theatrical spectacle. It's a circus. That's the word. It's become a circus where a lot of people feel the need to air out dirty laundry online. And whilst I understand the power of, you know, the microphone or, you know, the virtual podium, I understand the power of it. And I think it's necessary 100%. For a lot of communities and a lot of people to have voice and put words to things that they didn't have the power to, you know, put words to. I do think there's something to be said around, if you do have a grievance with your partner or somebody that's close to you, it's really important to interact with them directly. Definitely. And not in front of the audience. Again, being, hey, I'm Christian. In our guidebook, it says that if you do have a grievance with your brother, you need to actually pull your brother to the side and be like, yo, man, I got an issue with you. And then if it actually is something that cannot be addressed, then you're pulling the community to have that conversation. And I think
but it's just one or two in the community. Right. Elders of the community.
Those that,
we could talk about that.
There we go. Those that are mature and have wisdom. I think too many of us are inviting the commentary of the public into our conversations and our relationships. And the problem with that is these people don't know you. And all of a sudden, you have people that don't know you, people that don't care for you either, dragging you for filth over something that you probably should have told your partner about in private. So that was my first, like, oh, Darius, this was a problem. And then the second was, oh, if you have an issue, you need to learn how to articulate the real issue and not try and shame somebody into comportment with you, right? Because I read that comment, I was like, man, this is whack. Like, this is mean. Why would you say that? Like, oh, you're a mom. Why are you dressed like that? It's like, okay, so just because she's a mom, because you've articulated it in that way, my initial reaction was like, oh, because she's a mom, she can't dress the way that she wants.
But
do you know what I mean?
The root issue?
Do you know what I mean? It was only because I actually looked at the video, I looked at Darius, I was like, okay, it's likely that this wasn't the real issue. The real issue was you have an insecurity, or you have a very valid point in that you would like your partner to comport themselves in a particular way. Right. And that in of itself is not technically a bad thing, but the way that you articulated it to shame her into comportment with you was the real issue.
And the fact that you thought you were going to come and find public agreement. And I think that's the thing, like dragging somebody so close to you, even if you do, maybe they had a kickoff, you know, before, like there's a disagreement or there's contention, there's tension there already.
Absolutely.
To drag somebody who you know very intimately into the public square to be like, oh, flog her. Basically, like, what is she doing? Let's all drag her together, and thinking you're going to come and find agreement, especially for someone who has such like positive public sentiment surrounding her. I think that there was an element of shaming that was in that tweet. Absolutely. And it just feels so not only distasteful, but quite hurtful. And I do think that I agree that you may have had a valid point, which is, well, these are my expectations from my significant other. But I do think the way you handle these things is what shows your level of intimacy and care for your partner. And that just didn't seem very caring. It seemed very like, throw her to the dogs. And I love that it backfired. Now, of course, like Twitter and the internet in general is a place that it's very hard to have nuanced conversations. It's very hard to lay out the context to a 140 or 280 character tweet. And it's hard to know the history of their relationship because we don't know much about him in general.
Oh, I mean, we've learned now.
And as you see, you see what I mean? And now people are digging into your past with no desire to give you any grace, no real care for who you are as a person. And they're now dragging you for filth, right? And you thought you were going to come and find agreement here. You thought that you were going to come and find support here. And I think there's something to be said about, even though there is a lot of like relationship content out there, even though there are a lot of online spaces that exist where people seem interested in relationships, they're not necessarily invested in the way that you would need them to in order to give you advice, which then brings us to that like elder point, right? Which is you bring people who can not only bring sound wisdom to this situation, but actually want to see resolution to this situation. Whereas we live in an internet where people want to see entertainment from the situation. Do you get what I mean? Everyone wants to see things fall to pieces, and maybe not explicitly, but more so like, you know, they want to throw wood into the fire and see how far things can go. And they're now calling you this and calling you that when you, sir, are a father. Right? And do you want people speaking of you in this way? Do you want to be talking about the mother of your child in this way? And it's in the archives now. The internet never dies, right?
Look, and you know what? It all speaks to the way that a lot of men interact with the mother of their children, right? Like the funny thing is with someone like Darius, like just a few weeks ago, this man was like posting videos and images of her body saying, wow, check out that snapback body. Like she's looking good and all that kind of stuff. Couple weeks later, it's like, you're a mom, why are you dressed like this? And it's
because
just
someone
like,
else is enjoying it, someone else is consuming it.
There we go. And it's so frustrating because we were having this conversation before like we started rolling, when we were like, okay, like, have you heard about this whole situation? And it's that wrongful possession of women, right? That wrongful dictation. Because again, we're Christians, so we believe in marriage. We believe in, you got to put a ring on it before you have some kind of claim, before you start saying, you know, I want you to dress this way or whatever. Even then, it's not necessarily about like dictation, but it's more so about, these are my expectations. These are your expectations. Are we going to honor each other's expectations? Ain't nobody going to honor your expectations if you ain't put a ring on it.
Well, and no one's going to honor your dictations if you aren't holding your responsibilities down.
And now everybody knows that, you know, she pays your bills. Now everybody is out here.
That's why.
Somebody was like, baby, why didn't you cut his photos? I said, good God. Now people are trying to undermine your masculinity, you know, on the internet, in public.
And you brought it on yourself.
For no reason.
You brought it on yourself. And I think you bring up such a valid point, which is like, you know, this decision to police women's bodies when it's like, okay, this isn't about you policing, because I do think there's something to be said about when you are in an intimate, committed relationship with someone, or somebody is your significant other, having to take into consideration, okay, what would you actually want me to do? And like you said, honoring those decisions, right? So I do think if your partner doesn't want you dressing a certain way, then it's a valid conversation to actually have, and something which, okay, yeah, we should honor in public. So I'm not saying that he was necessarily in the wrong in his sentiment, but I think it's more so, you're now upset then that other people, or it seems like other people are having an access to something which you want just for yourself. But it's not just for yourself because you haven't put a ring on it.
This is it. And also, we're not saying that, you know, if the baby's a baddie, she now has to turn into a nun. This frustrates me. Because a lot of men will meet baddies and think that they're going to have to turn into some kind of nun. It's like, I've captured the bird now, and you know,
let me make her into what I want.
You can only wear this around me. You can only behave this way around me. No. That's not
She's
the
her
way
own
it works.
individual person.
And this is the thing. In this context, Keke is a performer. She's an entertainer. And there is a certain level of industry
100%. This is her world.
Because when I think of someone like Sierra and Russell Wilson, Sierra has definitely come into flame sometimes about her outfits. Like, oh, what would Russell think? Well, you don't know, because Russell ain't never said anything on the internet.
And also, this is how Russell found me.
Right.
And if he wanted me to change, I would have that conversation with him in private.
Right.
And I think we really need to start honoring the private space.
Absolutely.
Because just because it's in a public space doesn't make your point valid.
Right.
Do you get what I mean? Just because you said it loudly doesn't make it true. If you can say this thing privately, it allows you to actually delve into the conversation at a depth which actually brings about change, resolution, and agreement.
Absolutely.
And if you can't get to that point, you're not going to find it in a public sphere where other people are now adding fuel to the fire.
And it's the fact that there is so much onus on the woman to change when she becomes a mother. But it's like, okay, so what do we expect for men when they become fathers?
But oftentimes it feels like people think men are the complete package, where like, and men think of themselves as the complete package, not really needing to evolve as a leader, but having that position and that title by virtue of simply being a man, simply having
no baby,
the XY.
It's ridiculous. No, baby.
No, like you actually
together.
have to develop as a leader. You have to develop as a father. You have to develop as a partner. And that means, you know, really refining your communication style, really investigating your approach to the person who you claim to care about.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes people think men don't have to do that evolution. They don't have to do that development or that change. They just are.
Arrived.
They just are. By virtue of just being a grown man, they just are. And it's like, no, there is still work that you need to do. But I love that you mentioned that, because I think a lot of people put the responsibility of keeping a relationship intact on the woman and her behavior, forgetting that she had a whole identity before she became a mother or before she became a wife or a partner. And it's like, you don't just throw those parts of you away. You don't just throw those parts of your career, those parts of your position in the industry away, especially when this is how you found me. And I didn't say I was going to do anything different. Now, obviously, we don't have the full context. She may have been like, oh, okay, yeah, when I'm out, I won't do stuff like that.
Right.
She got behind closed doors, and then she came out and he was like, well, that's not what we agreed.
And he was like, mad, big mad.
Big mad.
But the thing is, for me, is the fact that he posted her body before. And
again, and this is not the first time people have been like, wow, Keke, a baddie, post-mom, snapback body is looking fantastic, right? But it's fine because you thought it reflected well on you and your choices, also, but now it seems to be a threat to your masculinity because somebody else, she's being made to look desirable in front of the backdrop of another desirable man.
But even that though, I know that some people are like, when it comes to certain performers and entertainers, you get a pass. We don't believe in that. We hear the sense of it.
No.
We hear the sense of it. No. We hear the sense of it. Because we know, although I'm not going to lie to you, some of the folks that would have got a quote unquote theoretical pass, the pass is no longer, we've revoked access.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
The things we found out about 100%. Some of your most desirable men, take them back to the shop.
Gosh.
Oh my
no
goodness.
longer desired.
You are no longer
desired. We
access
don't want
revoked.
You. Unwanted.
Get
Go
out.
away.
You know.
It's actually so true. But even with that, it's like,
because think about the reverse, right? Like when guys
literally, I was going to be that's exactly
guys
what I was going to say.
And you know, a guy is being danced on by like a Beyonce
if somebody was
Rihanna
to give your man a lap dance, how would you feel? Like, I wouldn't come on here, but you're a father. You know, how could you see that you're somebody's husband? And I think that it's that, right?
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you should have known that you should do better. And it's like, actually, let me be honest vulnerable and transparent and say, this struck a nerve with me, right? And maybe we haven't discussed it, or maybe you have discussed it, but this made me feel like X, Y. I felt disrespected, or I felt like it was inappropriate. And going forward, I would appreciate if you didn't. And I think it's also giving your partner the grace to think the best of them and think, you weren't doing this maliciously. Like all the context we've added, you're at an industry event, you're an entertainer, and you're with another entertainer who actually probably knows you, and is serenading you, and you're both not just interacting as individuals who, you know, talking in each other's DMs, you're actually acting as almost caricatures and your personas, right? Like it's Usher, it's Keke, and that comes with a completely different world and a completely different kind of interaction. But if you assume that your partner is doing the worst, or if you assume that your partner has bad intentions, this is how you're going to go about things. You're going to attack them and their moral compass, or whether it's like, how can you not know that as a mother you shouldn't be doing this? Whoa, is that actually the real? That's not the real issue here. Bruh. This struck a chord with you. My baby is asleep. I got them a babysitter. They are well and healthy. They don't even know who Usher Raymond is.
That man should be very happy that it was Usher Raymond and not some of these other industry folks. I tell you, if that had been Dexter Daps, Keke would have been hit with a cease and desist order. I'm telling you, because Dexter Daps has the girls doing up cartwheels, upside down, all sorts of stuff. So that man should even thank his lucky stars that everything was above the belt.
Yeah.
Usher was there holding her up. He said, you know what, I'm going to serenade you. I'm not going to do entirely too much, because I've seen Usher's concerts.
Usher is on such a comeback.
Yeah, he is.
And I really love him. And he's aged so well. Yeah. And I would hate to find out Usher has done anything in the Do you have any artists who is like, no, not them? Like, if you heard something wrong, like bad about them.
To be fair, I mean, Usher has had his moments in the spot.
This is true. This is true.
We ain't gonna mention it on this podcast. You could go do
You could search Wendy Williams. But that's where you're going to find the tea. Wendy's talked about it.
You could go and talk. You could in your own time. You could go ahead and do all that. That ain't got nothing to do with us. We're trying to bury it. You know, maybe that's why he's coming. That's why he's coming back with this mature energy. He's like, I'm over that huge discretion. Is there anyone that I would be shocked at these days? I don't know. I feel like my shock has...
I don't believe in anyone anymore.
This is it, right? Because when the first few trickles of Trey songs came through, but that was heartbreaking. What? That was actually heartbreaking.
I can't lie, it was. It was. But you know what? And it's funny because it wasn't Keke Palmer who was like, this guy is no good. I think it's one thing to, again, it goes back to what I was saying about it's personas, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're often in love with celebrities' personas, but we often don't know them as a person.
Exactly.
Like, we don't know who they are as a person behind the Mr. Steal Your Girl or, Usher Raymond. It's very much like, I know what I get in the public, PR, publicist, curated version of you, but who you are behind closed doors, I actually don't know. And I think it goes back to this conversation, right? Where it's like, this is a behind closed doors conversation. But unfortunately, because we are living in a culture of celebrity idols, people want to have these conversations in the public square because we are also thirsty for entertainment. And it's like, this is actually what damages relationships. And I kind of wanted to talk on the reality of it though. If this was not celebrities, right? I think there would be greater understanding of but really and truly, should you be dancing on another man when you got a man?
Again, that is between you
and your partner.
This is the crux of the matter here is you got to talk to your partner. Because what is right for some people is not right for others, right? For example, there are certain cultures or communities where it's actually permissible for you to dance on other people in a way that may be sexualized in other. What I can think of is whining, for example.
Carnival,
all that kind of stuff. In a lot of Caribbean cultures, whining is a non-sexual dance. So that's not an issue. However, in other cultures, and not even necessarily ethnicities or communities, but in some subcultures or in some communities, don't be doing that with somebody's 100%. Don't, those kind of things.
Don't do that with someone's man.
We can't come here and say a blanket, you shouldn't be doing this with this person, because that's the kind of nonsense that feeds into the fire of these conversations. What we are going to tell you to do is talk to the person that you're with, set your expectations from early, and talk about these things. Don't be embarrassed or shy, because I think a lot of people, especially a lot of men, are embarrassed and shy to have these conversations because they feel like they're going to be penalized for it, or they feel like, you know, there's discomfort. And I hear it. And it's funny because I was having this conversation with a friend of mine where, you know, patriarchy has done a number on so many people that A, it makes men uncomfortable to talk about some of their own insecurities and their thoughts and feelings. But B, I think a lot of women feel like they have license to do whatever they want in response to the oppression that they have faced. Yeah. Whilst I get it, girl, I get it. We have been policed. We have been shamed into nothingness. That doesn't negate the fact that when you come into a relationship, you're working with somebody else. It's a partnership. And of course, it doesn't negate the existence of patriarchy, but your relationship is an opportunity for you to create a safe space for both of you to come together as people
and a new
outside.
culture
exactly,
for yourselves.
A new culture. So if you are with somebody that, you know, you're talking with them and in the early stages of conversation, they say, you know what, actually it strikes a chord with me when, you know, my like wife or partner wears particular clothes outside. You can make the decision as to whether you want to stay and honor that or you want to go and find somebody else that would be more comfortable with you wearing whatever you want as you found. And equally for men, you don't have to go and capture a quote unquote independent lady and try and force her into being the woman that you want her to be,
or a baddie. Do
you know
and
what
try
I mean?
To make her into a nun.
And that's even another thing. Like, decide what you want, bro, because you can't expect how you find a person. And this is the thing. This is where men go wrong with potential. Because women, we've been going wrong with potential for time. We know the consequences. But men, I need you men, if you are going to go out with a baddie, quote unquote, if you are going to go out with a girl that dresses in a particular way that you are attracted to, don't think that you can then force them to change just because they're in relationship with you. That's who they are. Clothes are part of our identity. Clothes are part of who we are. Our expression. Are. Exactly. You may find a girl that's amenable to changing or taking into consideration based off of principles that you share. But the important word here is share. You have to share those principles. In certain cultures, in certain religions, in certain communities, it is necessary for you to change yourself or comport yourself differently when you are in relationship with someone. Do you know what I mean? When you're married to someone, when you're in a long-term relationship with that person. But don't think that you can possess a person. Relationships are not about possession. They're about partnership. There you go. And I think so many people enter into relationships, especially a lot of men enter into relationships with the intention of possessing rather than partnering with a woman. So all of a sudden it's a wear this because I want you to wear this, as opposed to describe to me why you feel comfortable wearing this and you know, how does this make you feel? And really trying to understand, like, is this really about trying to attract and draw attention, or is this genuinely just how you like dressing, right?
And how you want to express yourself?
Exactly. There's so many like folks out there that will be like, and this is the problem with like policing women's bodies, right? There's a lot of women who actually wear what they want to wear because they feel comfortable 100%. In it or they like it. And this is not to deny the existence of, you know, there are certain women that will wear certain quote unquote provocative things because that's the attention that they're actually trying to seek. But for a lot of women, the majority of women, they just want to wear what they want to wear without being seen a particular way. 100%. And I think actually having conversations with your partner, with the girl that you are trying to pursue, with the girl that you are actually intentional with, and having those conversations early, heavy emphasis on the early. Stop being surprised later down the line when she's, you know, wearing her batty riders and whatnot and going outside because she felt comfortable in it. And the funny thing is, it attracted you.
And I think that's another thing when people are talking about like the way women dress. I think there's a temptation to be like, oh, you're just dressing for a man, or oh, you're just dressing for you. But I actually think it's more grey than that, because I think knowing that we feel attractive and we feel like we look nice actually helps us to just feel better in the clothes that we wear. So I think it's actually a mix of the two. Like, I know other people will look at me, not just necessarily men, but sometimes even women, and be like, girl, you look good. You look great. And that is also helping me fuel, like that is also helping to fuel the feeling within myself that I actually look good and I want to wear this thing. But I also think and it links really well back to the dilemma, I think more people need to become more comfortable with embracing the uncomfortable conversations that come with coming to the same page with your partner, right? If you have an expectation for your partner and it requires a conversation, that conversation is not going to be comfortable. I think about all the conversations we've had to have as like friends, business partners, or just even with family, where it's like, oh, this is going to be an uncomfortable conversation. But we need to get through this discomfort in order to now be on the same page so we can move forward. And so many people avoid the uncomfortable conversation, and then that tension bubbles up within them. That frustration and annoyance bubbles up within them, and it then oftentimes it flows over into the public sphere. It flows over into the side comments they make with friends,
hoping
that you'll catch the gist, you know? But it's the shady comments now. It's the looking at you some way, somehow. And it's like, do you feel something towards me? And it's like, surely with our closest people in our lives, we would be the most vulnerable versions of ourselves in order to let our thoughts be known in a respectful and in a loving way, but in a transparent way, which says, actually, because we are journeying with each other and because we are partnering with each other, we actually need to journey and partner through this discomfort and the tension of this conversation together. So even if it is bringing up the politics of it all with your partner or with your friends, with your brothers, and being like, actually, when you tell me not to wear this, this is what it triggers in me, or this is the politics that surrounds this dynamic, like patriarchal standards or the pressure or the policing of women or the hypersexualization of women. These are the things that I'm thinking. And I know not everybody may have the language for that, but I do think just expressing how you feel and the thoughts that are coming into your mind through conversation and discussion, and realizing these things can't just be had in one conversation, in one sitting.
100%.
It actually requires maybe a lot of pillow talk and a lot of like, oh, can you now read this book? Or here's a podcast that will help explain what it is that I am actually feeling. You know, send them a clip and be like, this is exactly what I'm struggling to put the language to. And going on that ride of learning and discovering each other in the hopes of coming to agreement. But I think because of the way social media is framing relationships now, people feel as though it's my way or the highway. Like, if you don't do what I say, like you're saying about possession, if you don't do what I say, do you truly love me? And it's like, but I'm a person. I'm also figuring myself out. I'm also evolving. And I need to express the thoughts that I'm feeling. And you can help shape that. But I also need you to hear me out on this as well, and be a part of the ride and a part of the journey. And that aspect of journeying with each other in relationship, I think, is becoming so lost in our generation, because we want to find finished products. We want to find people who are malleable and impressionable and who we can just morph into everything that we want, forgetting that they are people.
I think also, to bring another side to the conversation, is this whole idea of like women's accountability on the part of knowing who their partner is and all that kind of jazz. Because as a result of this whole escapade online, there were a number of quite interesting tweets that were brought up by Darius that he had said, 2016, 2017, 2018, all times when, Keke was getting to know him, all that kind of stuff. And some really interesting, and by interesting, I mean high-key problematic stuff. We're talking misogyny, we're talking conservative, we're talking some of the victims of, for example, gun violence or police brutality, if they had just, if they had just healed. And I think there is something to be said around this behavior. Not that it shouldn't have been surprising, but I think there's something around, I want to be careful here because I don't want to do any kind of like victim blaming, but I do think there is a level of accountability to be taken by women, lest we infantilize them and think, they were just like a victim of this random bout of like, do you know what I mean? Choice. I think there is a certain accountability that we as women do need to take when we see people exhibiting these kinds of behaviors. And it was triggered by the fact that you were talking about like politics, right? Like, we should be, again, in those conversations, aware of our partner's politics. We should be aware of, the frameworks or the theories or the principles that they hold dear to them early on. So then we can ascertain, is this something that I'm going to ride through? Right? Like, we need to not be so held up on like love or like so held up on, this man treats me right and all that kind of stuff, because just because he's love bombing you now or like treating you right now in this particular instance doesn't make everything else that he does right.
Come on.
And it is that compromise, right? Like having to take accountability of the fact that whilst my partner is not perfect, I am essentially stepping into a place of agreement with them. So if something does go wrong and it's attached to a particular framework, principle, or theory that I have seen him have, I can't now act shocked. I can't now act, oh my gosh, like where did this come from? Because you did perceive the signs.
Exactly. And it's the same, go for it. It's the same principle that we were just discussing about, which is, you stick with what you find, right? Like you can't then assume his politics will change or he'll become a completely different person now because he's exposed to me, or he'll just bend over. I think it's also allowing women to, have the power to be like, you made that choice with all of your power, but also it's a bad choice, right? And that's actually okay. I think a lot of us want to be like, oh, if it didn't work out, then it's not her fault. And it's like, actually, if we're going to talk about women having like equality, then we also have to be equal in being able to make bad decisions for ourselves, right? And so I do think that the politics that your partner holds outside of your relationship and outside of romance and the way they think that relationship should be orchestrated will impact you. It 100%. Will impact the way that your life is now going to be led. And I do think it's something more people need to be attuned to. But then again, it requires you to be okay with having very awkward discussions. And I think the awkwardness is what people are covering up with the romance, right? Like, we're not going to sit down and have really tough conversations about politics, philosophy. Like, and I'm not talking on like a university level, like, oh, what do you think about Plato? It's not like that. It's more like, what do you think about religion? What do you think about police brutality?
What's your relationship with women?
What is your relationship with women? What is your relationship with children?
Right.
What's your relationship with money? What's your relationship with masculinity and with bills?
We need to like write a 101 list of things to ask in the early stages.
I think we need a whole PDF, a downloadable PDF. It will be 99p
because it will be 99p, 100%. No, but genuinely, these are like a list of questions, and I actually have one, like a list of a very long list of questions. You don't need to ask the person like in the first stage of meetings, like, "Hi, good morning, how are you?" So thoughts.
But even that, like, that's a whole, not necessarily a date, but not everything needs to be these ostentatious, luxurious dates. Like every time we meet, it's like, where are you taking me? It's like, nah. Let's get rid of all the smokes and mirrors and the things that would really get us in that really romantic mood, and let's employ a sober mind, right? Let's just sit down at a kitchen table, forget the ambience of the lighting, forget the nice food. Let's just sit down over a bowl of grapes and be like, what do you think about X, Y, Z? And that's going to be our date, because I need to know who it is that I am committing myself to, so that, like you said, I can make a calculated decision as to whether this is something I can ride out.
Exactly. Because again, I love what you were saying about creating a culture within your relationship. If you are the kind of person that wants a long-term relationship or a long-term partner, if you're thinking about having kids in the future, these things contribute to the culture of your household. And this is why so many households are breaking down, because people have not cultivated the culture, the environment in which these things can grow.
And if you don't get used to having very awkward conversations now, it will never get easier. Right? Like, it will actually never get easier.
It will end up on social media.
Exactly. And then what happens is, as your partner then goes through another evolution, like think about things like midlife crisis or like having a kid and then having another kid, and how that may change you and your family dynamic. Like, things don't get easier and things don't stay the same in relationships. And so if you don't have a set culture, if you don't have a set, even like ethos that you're living by within your relationship, and a mutual understanding about how you approach awkward things and make decisions together, it will not become easier when more changes occur, right? And so now you actually don't know how to address the thing that has been pissing you off for 10 years, right? You don't know how to address this new era that your partner is going through. You know, maybe she did start off like, or he started off, we're really aligned. And it's like 15 years later, they decide, actually, I've had some kind of awakening. Maybe I don't want to be a part of this religion anymore. Maybe I don't, want to work in this industry anymore. And it's like, if you don't know how to have very vulnerable and transparent conversations in private with your partner, you also won't know how to embrace or address their new season, right? And their new evolution. And that will breed even more awkwardness, because you didn't want to address the initial awkwardness that existed. So I need more of us to really strengthen communicating with our partner. I think so many of us want to become good at communication so that we can articulate ourselves publicly. But actually, good communication skills benefit you most privately.
This is the thing. And look, there's levels to this, right? You start with the private, you address your partner. If that doesn't work, in fact, even if you're afraid to address your partner, this is why community is important. You go to your boy. You say, my guy. See, instead of supporting your man them to be out here cheating, how about you support your man them to talk adequately to their partner
about what they actually think and feel?
Man, she's wild and all this kind of stuff. But
what does that mean?
Instead of you to say, my good brother, if you would like to bring this up to your lady, these are some of the ways that you can do that. How about you guys support each other? Because I know that sometimes these conversations can be tough and awkward.
100.
That toughness and that awkwardness. This is why we need men of the community that are mature. But we also need fatherhood. Right? These are conversations that you would have with a father figure, an uncle, somebody that's older than you, that has been through these kind of situations, right? I think of the times where there are things that I want to communicate that I'll be like, let me actually go to my mom or like an auntie or somebody that's older than me or someone that's more mature or who has been through this kind of thing, right? This is why it's important that equally for men and women, they need mature counsel. Because think about it. Darius could have gone to an uncle and been like,
am I wilding?
Uncle,
am I tripping here?
Yo, I want to articulate something, and they'll be able to give you some wisdom. Equally, go to one of your boys that has a relationship, or one of your boys that is married, or somebody that has been that could have been in this particular situation, or has the right context to be able to give you wisdom on this, rather than going to a public forum and like crowd surfing and hoping that's from the crowdsourcing you'd be able to bring some kind of wisdom. And unfortunately, all you brought to your household was shame.
And embarrassment publicly. But also it's like finding people who are willing to also dig deeper with you and be like, actually be behind this initial like, oh, she's wilding, there's actually deeper feelings. And I think just generally the relationship men have been allowed to have or taught to have with their feelings, right, has made this probably very difficult for them to be like, can I actually acknowledge the way that I feel? And it's something that I really do sympathize with, because again, patriarchy doesn't benefit a lot of people, right? Like including toxic men. Patriarchy, including men, especially men even. And I think having fatherhood or brotherhood around you, which allows people to genuinely care enough to investigate the statements you make, investigate the problems you have, and be like, actually, let's get to the crux of the matter to find out what's going on with you, right? Not just to put you in this position of power in your relationship, but to truly make sure that you feel seen and heard and appreciated, but also understood. Absolutely. And are willing to go with you on that journey to finding understanding about why you feel the way you feel. I think not enough spaces allow men to go into that depth, because again, those spaces are such intimate spaces that they are often private. And so if you don't see the value of having private conversations and private community, and you see everything as public spectacle, you will never get to the root of your feelings. Absolutely. Because everything about public spectacle is shallow and surface level.
I mean,
heavy on the mean. Heavy on the mean.
It's very mean.
But anyway, we have nothing to say about anybody's relationship. Like, absolutely. Honestly, we wish them nothing but the best. Honestly. We wish nothing but the best for the future of that beautiful child of theirs. And honestly, we want to hear you chime in. Like we said, we haven't got all the answers. We can't stand at every different, position of life to have every perspective in our arsenal. So we want to hear from you. That is the perks of actually having a digital community. So respectfully, drop your comments like it is hot, and make sure that you are following us on Instagram as well, so you can chime into the conversation over there. That's where it'd be happening.
That's where it's kicking off. That's where it's all kicking off still to this day.
So yeah, follow us at To My Sisterhood. But of course, if you want to follow our individual glowing and growing journeys, then you can follow the lovely award-winning activist and advocate and gender equity star over here at Renee Kapuku. And you can follow me on Instagram and on Threads
and on YouTube
at CD Boating, the original CDB.
Come on now. And sisters, of course, join the mailing list, but please, can you also vote for us? Thank you.
Please
vote for us. Be Creator Podcast of the Year. We love you. We're going to put the link down below, and we're going to put it everywhere, and we're going to keep talking about it. We've got a long way to go. It's in like October, September. We need y'all to vote. Okay, vote. As soon as you hear this, just go and vote. But yeah, back to signing up to the mailing list. As I mentioned earlier on in this episode, things are coming, things are growing, and we want you to be a part of that journey. But a great reason to sign up to the mailing list is we are always going to be there weekly with those growing and glowing tips. So please never miss out on a week, and sign up at www.tomysisters.com.
There you go. Well, sisters, we hope that you have an amazing week. Definitely cultivate some private community in your life and have some really intimate, vulnerable conversations about how you truly feel. All right, don't be afraid to be uncomfortable this week.
Don't be scared.
So sisters, we hope you have an amazing weekend. As always, keep glowing and growing.